Yeah, so we have basically done 6 paragraphs of this chapter, Sankhya, Yoga, and Vedanta. 3 in the first session, and one in each of the next 3 sessions. Today we have to start from here, the seventh one. Dhaval bhai, would you like to read, please? But apart from the distinction.
Yeah, sure. But apart from the distinction between the Sankhya way of knowledge and the Yoga way of works, there was another and a similar opposition in the Vedanta itself. And this also the Gita has to deal with, to correct and to fuse into its large restatement of the Aryan spiritual culture. This was the distinction between Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda, between the original thought that led to the philosophy of Purva Mimamsa, the Vedavada, and that which led to the philosophy of Uttar Mimamsa, the Brahmavada, between those who dwelt in the tradition of the Vedic hymns and the Vedic sacrifice, and those who put these aside as lower knowledge and laid stress on the lofty metaphysical knowledge which emerges from the Upanishads.
धवल भाई, इसमें फुटनोट था उत्तर मीमांस के बाद.
हाँ, अभी मैं पढ़ता हूँ. Jaimini's idea of liberation is the eternal Brahma Loka, in which the soul that has come to know Brahman still possesses the divine body and divine enjoyments. For the Gita, the Brahmaloka is not liberation. The soul must pass beyond in, to the supracosmic status. For the pragmatic mind of the Vedavadins, the Aryan religion of the rishis meant the strict performance of the Vedic sacrifices and the use of sacred Vedic mantras in order to possess all human desires in this world: wealth, progeny, victory, every kind of good fortune, and the joys of immortality in paradise beyond. For the idealism of the Brahmavadins, this was only a preliminary preparation, and the real object of man, true Purushartha, began with his turning to the knowledge of the Brahman, which would give him the true mortality of an ineffable spiritual bliss far beyond the lower joys of this world or of any inferior heaven. Whatever may have been the true and original sense of the Veda, this was the distinction which had long established itself with and with which therefore the Gita has to deal.
Yeah,
Should
thank you.
do you want to read the next? No, it's too long, no?
नहीं नहीं,
Yeah. Okay.
better to go para by para.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, नहीं नहीं, thank you for reading. So, this paragraph again is important from the historical chronological perspective, the basically the evolution of spiritual thought in India from that point of view, the idea of liberation itself, as we have discussed earlier also. In the previous one, basically, he speaks about Tyaga, Sannyasa, how the Gita basically synthesizes karma, jnana, bhakti, etc. तो we had covered that in quite detail last time, तो उसमें दोबारा उसको recap करने का ऐसा कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है. We'll basically start with this one only. Okay. So, but apart from the distinction between the Sankhya way of knowledge and the Yoga way of works, again and again he is referring to that shloka 3.3. Jnana yogena sankhyanam, karma yogena yoginam. Okay. There was another and similar opposition in the Vedanta itself. There was a similar opposition in the Vedanta itself. Yes, that is the, yeah, okay, we'll come to this. And this also the Gita has to deal with, to correct and to fuse into its large restatement of the Aryan spiritual culture. There was another and similar opposition in the Vedanta itself, he says. Okay. This was the distinction between Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. So if you note here, the spelling here is Jnana. Over the first N, that tilde is not there. This is what I had pointed out earlier also, that this alternative spelling in English is used for Jnana. And, if you are not so particular about pronouncing the word exactly, Jnana karke, then this will also do. Okay, Jnana Kanda. Between the original thought that led to the philosophy of the Purva Mimamsa, the Vedavada, and that which led to the philosophy of the Uttara Mimamsa, the Brahmavada, between those who dwelt in the tradition of the Vedic hymns and the Vedic sacrifice, and those who put these aside as a lower knowledge and laid stress on the lofty metaphysical knowledge which emerges from the Upanishads. So, basically, in the previous sentence, when he's saying similar opposition in the Vedanta itself, right? And all along, basically, we've been saying that Vedanta is Upanishads. That is correct. But where did that come from? And some of the Upanishads, they are part of the Veda Samhitas. For example, the most favorite Upanishad of Sri Aurobindo that way, called the Isha Upanishad. It is the 40th and last chapter of the Shukla Yajurveda. There are some differences.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
I have the Shukla Yajurveda with me and I
Uh-huh.
cross-checked. Uh, on cross-checking, I found out that इसको recensions बोलते हैं. RESCE and SION, recensions. Basically, the branches in which the text has been preserved and carried forward. So, whatever reason, in the Shukla Yajurveda text and the Isha Upanishad text that is there in complete works of Sri Aurobindo, so there are slight differences here and there. Uh, I think one verse is less and the order is slightly different, but on the whole, like 85-90%, it is the same, right? Um, Shvetashvatara Upanishad, another major of the 12, it is said about it that it is basically an anthology. So it is a collection of hymns from the Vedic literature, right? But the most outstanding example is that of the ईशा जो मैंने दिया अगेन इफ यू सी द ये बस इसी पॉइंट को क्लियर करने के लिए है कि वाई द वर्ड वेदांता इज बीइंग यूज्ड लाइक दिस ओके और कुछ नहीं है इसमें ताकि आवर एम इन दी सेशंस इज ऑलवेज कि कहीं भी एज फार एज पॉसिबल कोई गैप नहीं रहना चाहिए नो मैटर हाउ स्लो वी हैव टू गो राइट
Yeah.
तो हाँ
अनमोल भाई एक सॉरी एक क्वेश्चन आया दिमाग में बिकॉज यू मेंशन्ड राइट नाउ Vedanta is actually culmination of the Vedas, right?
वेदांता बेसिकली मीन्स एंड ऑफ द वेदस
End of Vedas or culmination of the Vedas,
कल्मिनेशन ऑफ वेदस
right? Now the question that arises in my mind is, Upanishads were the supposed to be that, right? Now Sri Aurobindo, I've seen him refer at many places earlier Vedanta and later Vedanta.
that is because
What
Upanishads
is the mean?
themselves. Correct, correct. So I'll tell you exactly where this comes,
Please.
where I have read it at least. I will share the reference also.
Huh,
In the Isha Upanishad, the
huh.
main commentary on it, which is around 80-85 pages, in that he divides the Upanishad into two uh, periods basically. And the Isha, Aitareya, Taittiriya, and two more. Brihadaranyaka, I think, and one more. So they, he says, belongs to the earlier period, and he does not name the ones of the later period, but he says that the Isha, for example, it preserves the spiritual pragmatism of the Vedas. This is the exact phrase he uses. So वो basically the Upanishadic period. Now, when it started exactly, when it ended, that is not easy to say. That is not easy to say. But that is the distinction that he makes. And maybe you got this idea when you read that, or you saw it somewhere or something like that.
I read it somewhere in Life Divine, later
हाँ
Vedanta.
हाँ, तो उसका मतलब यही है कि देर इज अ सेट ऑफ उपनिषद्स,
हाँ,
मतलब द अर्लियर उपनिषद्स, दे आर स्टिकिंग more strongly, more sincerely to the Vedas, and the others, they start going away from the fullness of the Veda, and instead of that integral view and that spiritual pragmatism. It's a very important phrase, by the way. If
Hmm.
you want to understand integral yoga, you have to remember this phrase in your mind: spiritual pragmatism. That no doubt you are spiritual, okay? But that does not make you lose your hold on practicality. Why? All life is yoga, okay?
हाँ,
Spiritual
हाँ.
pragmatism. हाँ. So the Isha, Aitareya, Taittiriya, these they preserve, whereas the later ones, they tend to go towards the sannyasa
Knowledge.
side. Yeah,
अच्छा.
like my guess is, again, because I mean, again, it's my guess. I don't know for sure, but the Mundaka Upanishad, the name itself means the shaver, right? So that kind of makes you think of a monk, sannyasi
Hmm.
वगैरह. So
Hmm.
it could be. Again, I'm not sure at all. I don't have any research data to back what I'm saying, but yeah, that could be one of those later Upanishads which
Hmm.
belong to the later period.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
is the distinction.
So that is later Vedanta. Then what is Shankara's Vedanta? वो भी it also comes
नहीं नहीं
under.
नहीं,
नहीं,
आप एक मिनट, आप दो अलग अलग चीजों को वो कर रहे हैं. सो पहले आप उपनिषद को लेके चलो, ठीक है?
ओके. हाँ,
सो या छांदोग्य, बृहदारण्यक, तैत्तिरीय, ऐत्रेय एंड ईशा, दीज
हाँ,
ही ग्रुप्स इन द फर्स्ट फाइव. दिस इज ऑन पेज नंबर 83 इन वॉल्यूम 17. ओके,
हाँ.
मैंने एक ही जो मिस हो गया था, दैट वाज द छांदोग्य. नाउ
हम्म.
आपका जो क्वेश्चन है,
हम्म.
तो लिसन. By the time Shankara came,
हम्म.
both these sets of Upanishads, either the earlier period or the later period, they had been written.
हम्म.
It's happened long before Shankara.
हम्म. करेक्ट.
Again, वो आप सीक्वेंस अपने माइंड में रखो,
हम्म.
which is given in the first chapter. Veda,
हम्म.
Upanishad, Gita, Tantra, and then अगर आप
पुराना.
मॉडर्न से कनेक्ट करो तो द इंटेग्रल योगा, विच इज द परफेक्ट सिंथेसिस. ओके,
हाँ, पांच सिंथेसिस बराबर 6.
श्री अरविंदो ने उसमें चार मेंशन करे हैं, बट
हाँ.
फॉर द, I mean, it's obvious that integral yoga is the
द फिफ्थ
last and
सिंथेसिस. यस,
perfect one.
यस, 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 आई एग्री विथ यू. हाँ, वो आउटलाइन पता है मुझे. ओके.
By the time Shankara came,
हाँ.
all these Upanishads, they were existing.
हम्म.
So by Shankara ke time ka Vedanta is meant his commentaries on those Upanishads, or his commentaries on the Brahma Sutras, or his commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita.
अच्छा, अच्छा. So
Or
Shankara's Vedanta is meant the commentaries.
by Shankara's Vedanta is meant his bhashyas on these main scriptures.
Okay, it is
अब
not.
now
Okay.
इसमें भी you see the flaw if you want to see clearly.
हाँ.
Shankara does not comment on the Vedas, because by that time what had happened was that the Upanishads and the Gita and the Brahma Sutra, Vedanta basically, that was regarded as the book of knowledge. Okay? Whereas the Veda was chiefly regarded, the Rig Veda Samhita वगैरह जो चारों संहिताएं हैं, they were regarded mostly as a karma kanda ka books, and they were kept aside.
अच्छा.
Uh,
हम्म.
That's what it is. It is Sayanacharya who, in the 13th century, he again, by writing that commentary on the Vedas, he tries to bring out their psychological and spiritual aspects other than the Karma Kanda.
ओके. Okay.
That clear?
Thanks for the clarification, because I was under understand impression that later Vedanta is Shankara, but now that you clarified, it is the other set of Upanishads.
हाँ, that way. नहीं, again, I have to see that sentence to see exactly what you mean. ठीक है? But जो भी हो, this is the complete knowledge. कि there is the set of Upanishads which are sticking more strictly to the spiritual pragmatism of the Vedas. उसमें जो 5 नाम श्री अरविंदो ने लिखे हैं, ईशा, छांदोग्य, बृहदारण्यक, ऐतरेय एंड तैत्तिरीय. ठीक है? And then there is other Upanishads which are going more and more away from the spiritual pragmatism of the Vedas, and they are going towards मतलब world negation and sannyasa and all that. That is that Upanishad pure जो आपका body of text है, जो इस पे कमेंट करते हैं ये लोग, उसको बोलते हैं श्रुति. ठीक है? Then जो शंकर का वेदांत है, that is basically his bhashyas on the Vedantic Prasthanatrayam, that is the Upanishads, Gita and Brahma Sutra.
Okay.
Clear?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Most welcome. Okay. So, but apart from the distinction between the Sankhya way of knowledge and the Yoga way of works, there was another and similar opposition in the Vedanta itself. वो इसीलिए उसको वेदांता बोल रहे हैं, क्योंकि सी कैसे बोले इसको, there is a kind of inseparability also to some extent between the Vedic literature proper and the Upanishadic literature. There is some there is some overlap. Okay, like for example, another example I will give you, the Mahavakyas. So there are 4 Mahavakyas of the Upanishadic tradition. Okay, Aham Brahmasmi, which comes in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Okay, Tattvamasi, which comes in the Chandogya Upanishad. Ayam Atma Brahma,
that is in
which comes in the
Mandukya
Upanishad, correct? And Prajnanam Brahma, which comes in the Aitareya Upanishad. Now, what they do is they trace these back to one of the Veda. So the Chandogya wala Tattvamasi, the Chandogya Upanishad is said to be a part of the Samaveda, and that way the Mahavakya Tattvamasi belongs to the Samaveda lineage.
Acha.
That is how it is in the tradition. The Prajnanam Brahma, Aitareya, that goes back to the Rig Veda.
अच्छा.
Okay? जो मांडुक्य वाला है, अयम आत्मा ब्रह्म, that goes back to the Atharva Veda.
अच्छा.
Okay? And कौन सा बचा? अहम ब्रह्मास्मि. So that goes back to the Samaveda. नहीं, सामवेदा का तो वो वाला है, तत्वमसी है. अहम ब्रह्मास्मि ऋग्वेदा हो गया, सामवेदा हो गया, यजुर्वेद
बचा. हाँ.
So अहम ब्रह्मास्मि, बृहदारण्यक उपनिषद. बृहदारण्यक उपनिषद is connected to the यजुर्वेद. So basically that is how this sort of मतलब continuity is there. इसमें और ज्यादा मल करने की जरूरत नहीं है. It's a very simple point that he is making. It was regarded as Vedanta. Veda शुरू हुआ जब भी, but Vedanta was its form which was being used, and in a loose sense you could say even जो कर्मकांडिक parts थे संहिता के, they were also being called Vedanta. Basically you can say that the word Vedanta in some sense had substituted the word Veda, because कोई difference नहीं है ना. Vedanta is the summum bonum of the Vedic knowledge. It is like the summit of the Veda that way. So in that sense, the separation between the two was not so distinct. Clear?
Okay.
This was the distinction between Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda, between the original thought that led to the philosophy of the Purva Mimamsa. पूर्व मतलब पहले का. तो इसी से आपको याद हो जाएगा कि पूर्व मीमांसा मीन्स द संहिता बेसिकली. द वेदवाद, इट डजंट से द वेदांतवाद. क्लियर? द वेदवाद.
हाँ, वेदवाद बोल रहा है. बराबर. हाँ,
बराबर है ना. एंड दैट विच लेड टू द फिलोसफी ऑफ द उत्तर मीमांसा, द ब्रह्मवाद.
So the knowledge portion. So this is the knowledge portion, right?
This is the knowledge portion. Remember, मैं ये ब्रह्मवाद वर्ड पहले भी यूज किया था
आपने. Yes.
for the Upanishads. Purva Mimamsa, Uttar Mimamsa, I had used these words when I had named the 6 philosophies. ठीक है,
हम्म
न्याय वैशेषिका योगा, वो सब जो था
हम्म
उसमें।
हम्म
The Brahmavada, between those who dwelt in the tradition of the Vedic hymns and the Vedic sacrifice, okay, and those who put these aside, okay, as a lower knowledge and laid stress on the wait, lofty metaphysical knowledge which emerges from the Upanishads.
So Vedic hymns are related to Upanishad knowledge, and Vedic sacrifice is
नहीं नहीं
related.
नहीं 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 नहीं,
uh,
Vedic hymns and Vedic sacrifice is one thing.
is one thing.
Yeah,
अच्छा
yeah.
अच्छा अच्छा, okay.
अब इसमें मैं और इलेबोरेट करूंगा, वैसे भी आज लोग कम है तो वी कैन टेक अवर ओन स्वीट टाइम, ठीक है।
हाँ हाँ
पहले जस्ट ये जो फुटनोट है उसको डील कर लेता हूँ।
हाँ
या इस पे बाद में आता हूँ, पहले लेट मी जस्ट फिनिश दिस। सो between those who dwelt in the tradition of the Vedic hymns and the Vedic sacrifice, yeah, who put as a lower knowledge stress on the lofty metaphysical knowledge which emerges from the Upanishads. Yeah. या बेसिकली वही कि जो संहिता है, ऋग्वेद संहिता या बाकी जो तीनों संहिताएं हैं, बेस्ड ऑन दीज हिम्स, वट एवर yajnas they were doing, karma kanda etc they were doing, that regarded as a lower knowledge. इवन आप जैसे मुंडका उपनिषद को देखेंगे, ठीक है, इन द वेरी फर्स्ट चैप्टर, आई थिंक इट विल बी बेटर टू शो दैट हियर, it will be better to show it here. Yeah, it's better to show it here. One second. Upanishads. Basically, it. Oh, ये क्या हुआ? Am I visible, audible?
नहीं, स्क्रीन चला गया,
Yeah, that the
शेयरिंग चला
Chrome
गया.
crashed. Chrome crashed for some reason.
Okay, that's the only problem.
Okay. Strange things happen. Hmm. 1 minute. Yeah, this is the one. One minute. Yeah, can you see this Mundaka Upanishad on screen?
हाँ, yes.
So basically यहाँ पे जो है, this is the first chapter of the Mundaka. This verse, first one we had seen earlier. Brahma Devanam Pratama Sambhavuva. Brahma, the first of the gods, was born. Remember? 2-3
हम्म
sessions ago. But you come to this verse, fourth number. It says Tasmai Saho Vacha Dve Vidye Veditavye. So there are two Vidyas which have to be known, etc. Brahma Vido Vadanti Paracha Eva Aparacha. So the
हाँ,
higher
लोअर
and
नॉलेज
the
एंड
lower.
हायर नॉलेज. हाँ.
Clear? अब यहाँ पे क्लियरली ये वाला जो वर्स है, तत्र अपरा ऋग्वेदो यजुर्वेदः सामवेदो अथर्ववेदः. सो ऋग्वेद यजुर्वेद सामवेद अथर्ववेद इज कॉल्ड अपरा विद्या.
हाँ.
हाँ, सामने लिखा
ओके.
हुआ है ना,
हाँ.
शिक्षा कल्पो व्याकरण निरुक्तम छंदो ज्योतिषम इति, और उसके बाद अथ परायया तदक्षरम अधिगम्यते, एंड देन द हायर बाय विच इज नोन द इम्यूटेबल. ठीक है, बट
हम्म
क्लियरली यहां लिखा है तत्र अपरा ऋग्वेदो यजुर्वेदः सामवेदो अथर्ववेदः.
तो
क्लियर?
वेदों को लोअर नॉलेज बोला गया है.
मुंडक है ना, बोल तो रहा हूं. आई थिंक इट
हाँ,
बिलोंग्स टू द सेकंड पीरियड, बट यहाँ क्लियरली लोअर नॉलेज, नो नॉलेज क्यों बोला गया है? वहां पे वो
हाँ,
सेंटेंसेस स्पेसिफाई होता है ना.
हाँ.
I'm having problem moving this, yeah, because it's not having that lofty metaphysical idea. The Veda had been turned mostly into karma kanda. That is why.
ओके. मतलब they lost the spirit of it and they just
नहीं, they what they lost was basically, I'll tell you, I need to tell this इसमें
कर्मकांड मीन्स
मैं बता रहा हूँ,
रिचुअल्स नो.
मैं बता रहा हूँ
हाँ हाँ.
एक्चुअली इसमें पूरा डिटेल में जाना पड़ेगा।
हाँ.
आप गलत लेके बैठी हैं, ऐसे तो गीता चिल्लाना है। ये वाला, बट अपार्ट फ्रॉम द डिस्टिंक्शन, 1 मिनट। 8:33, okay. See, I knew that this is going to happen when these two chapters come now. A lot of people they will fall away. It's not easy to bear such things. ये केवल उन्हीं के लिए है जिनको प्योर नॉलेज में रस आता है। You can tell from the attendance. Anyway, is this visible? The paragraph which we were reading?
हाँ. यस यस यस.
थोड़ा सा और बड़ा
बट
कर,
अपार्ट फ्रॉम. हाँ.
बट अपार्ट फ्रॉम, या सो पहले तो आप ये समझो कि जो वैदिक पीरियड है, ठीक है, डिफरेंट स्कॉलर्स से डिफरेंट थिंग्स रिगार्डिंग इट। इट्स नॉट इजी टू पिन पॉइंट अ पीरियड दैट वे। आ रहा है मेरे को, मतलब आई एम टेम्पटेड टू से तिलक said it's around like 6500 BC. That's what Tilak said, and he was a great scholar. So, but doesn't matter. What is more important is the period between the interval between the two syntheses and all that. So, सबसे oldest is the Rigveda Samhita. ठीक है? Now, उसके बाद there is something called the Brahmanas. जैसे आपने नाम सुना हो तो दो ही तीन ब्राह्मण के नाम फेमस हैं। ब्राह्मण एज अ ग्रंथ, इट डजंट मीन द पंडित ब्राह्मण। शतपथ ब्राह्मण, गोपथ ब्राह्मण, these are the two famous names. Okay, these brahmanas are basically scriptures uh, telling you how to use the mantras of the samhita for karma kanda purpose. They have their philosophical portions. Sri Aurobindo says in the Secret of the Veda that the brahmanas also have their philosophical portions, but mostly they deal with ritual. Okay, after brahmanas there is something called aranyakas.
हाँ. आरण्यकस. हाँ.
जैसे तैत्तिरीय आरण्यक इज वन आरण्यक, ठीक है,
फॉरेस्ट. हाँ.
करेक्ट। आरण्यक basically are those which which got generated in the forest, मतलब basically the silence in the forest, the contemplation in that, they arose out of that, so they are called aranyakas. aranya means forest. आरण्य संस्कृत में क्या होता है, बहुत ज्यादा डिटेल में जा रहा हूं, बट जो पहला वावल होता है, इफ यू वांट टू डू द ऑफ स्प्रिंग कि इसमें से ये निकला, तो जो पहला वावल है उसकी वृद्धि की जाती है। नाउ लुक अप आगे जाकर के कि संस्कृत ग्रामर में वृद्धि क्या होता है, बट द वर्ड इज अ ओवर देयर, तो वो अ का आ बनता है वृद्धि में, ठीक है। सिमिलरली फॉर कुंती, कौंतेय, लाइक दिस,
हाँ हाँ
धृतराष्ट्र,
हाँ हाँ.
धारतराष्ट्र एटसेट्रा। ये
हाँ.
बिल्कुल बेसिक चीजें हैं जो एवरी इंडियन दे मस्ट नो, बट somehow because of neglect of Sanskrit they are not known, and it is, I mean, frankly disgusting. It's shameful on our part that हमको इतना बेसिक चीजें भी नहीं पता होती हैं। बट एनीवे, मेरे को जितना थोड़ा बहुत पता है दैट आई ट्राई टू शेयर, ठीक है। तो आरण्य का बेसिकली दैट विच हैज कम आउट ऑफ द अरण्य। ओके, बृहदारण्य का इज एन आरण्य, इट इज ऑल्सो एन उपनिषद, वो दोनों है, बट बृहदारण्य का इज द मोस्ट फेमस and most widely read example of a aranyaka. Okay, zoom कहाँ गया, yeah, 1 minute, yeah, okay. So then comes the Upanishad, so पहले वेद, then ब्राह्मणास, मतलब द वैदिक संहिता, then the brahmanas, then the um, aranyakas, and then the उपनिषद, ये
ये
एक
वेद
sequence-
संहिता में तो चारों आगे बराबर, ऋग अथर्व यजुर
हाँ,
साम, हाँ,
when I say संहिता I mean all four.
ऑल फोर, ओके।
Okay? उसमें भी श्री अरबिंदो हैज गिवन द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंस टू द ऋग्वेद संहिता। ये एक एक वर्ड का मीनिंग होता है। ऋक मीन्स द वर्ड ऑफ इल्यूमिनेशन, ठीक है, इट्स देयर इन द एसेज ऑन द गीता। द वर्ड ऋक मीन्स द वर्ड ऑफ इल्यूमिनेशन। ऐसे ही यजुस का क्या मीनिंग, मैंने एक बार ग्रुप में डाला भी था, ठीक है। तो या बट व्हाट आई वांट टू से इज कि ये क्यों ऐसे बोल रहे हैं और ये ऊपर नीचे का क्यों हुआ, मुंडक में ऐसा क्यों लिखा है, व्हाई इज इट कॉल्ड लोअर नॉलेज एटसेट्रा। इट्स वेरी सिंपल, टाइम, कालांतर। सो संहिता आई, ऋग्वेद संहिता आई, एंड ऋग्वेद संहिता के पहले कुछ नहीं था, ऐसा भी नहीं है। सो नॉलेज वॉज देयर फ्रॉम अ वेरी वेरी लॉन्ग टाइम अगो। The earliest record that we possess right now of that knowledge is the ऋग वेद संहिता, ठीक है, क्लियर होना चाहिए। मदर के जो ऑकल्टिज्म के टीचर थे मैक्स तेओ, सो ही हैड स्टडीड द ऋग वेद आल्सो, इमेजिन।
ओहो,
या he had studied the rig veda, that's why his knowledge was so sound now, certain senses mein his knowledge was very very sound, right? Anyway, so आफ्टर द वैदिक संहिता फिर वो ब्राह्मणास आए हैं, फिर वो आरण्यक आए हैं। सो बाय द टाइम द उपनिषदिक एज केम, अ लॉन्ग गैप हैड already been there, time gap, okay, but the memory was there to revere the Veda as the authority, वो सब था, ठीक है। सो बट जो इसमें मैं कहना चाहता हूं, वेद में और उपनिषद में थोड़ा सा जो डिफरेंस है, सॉर्ट ऑफ अ स्टेप डाउन, इट इज दिस, that in the Veda the language is even more symbolic, even more symbolic. In the Upanishad
बराबर।
it is somewhat closer home, it is also very high flowing and symbolic and metaphysical and all that. Gita mein it's one step further down. Gita mein even the word, if you remember the first chapter, for the Upanishads he uses the word spiritual and intellectual, for the Gita he uses the word intellectual synthesis,
And ratiocinative.
ratiocinative, right? तो
And actually, Anmol Bhai, Sampath ji had told us कि इस time the Upanishad is more closer to classic Sanskrit,
obviously
whereas
classical Sanskrit means basically the Sanskrit of Kalidas and all these people.
Gita is more closer to modern Sanskrit.
नहीं 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 नहीं, ऐसा नहीं,
नहीं,
ऐसा नहीं है।
नहीं,
वो आप इतने सारे थ्रेड मत खोलो, या तो इसको माइंड में रखो, आई विल कवर दिस आल्सो।
ओके ओके ओके, हाँ,
अभी जो बोल रहा हूँ पहले आप उसको समझो अच्छे से, अंडरस्टैंड
ओके
करो।
ओके ओके ओके।
वन नीड्स टू बी वेरी वेरी क्वाइट इन ऑर्डर टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस, वरना ये स्लिप हो जाएगा।
हाँ,
सो by the in the Vedic period for the Samhita, the process that is followed for getting the knowledge is a very direct process, revelation होना, ठीक है, या वो इनर हियरिंग होना, जो वो तीन चार तरीके उसमें बताए गए हैं, जिसकी गॉडेसेस हैं, इला
हाँ,
फॉर रेवलेशन, सरस्वती फॉर इंस्पिरेशन, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा। द मेथड इज मच मोर डायरेक्ट, whereas in the Upanishads, like for example जो तत्वमसि वाला उसमें वो पोर्शन है, that's a conversation between a father and a son, okay, and he makes him not eat something for 5 6 days and then says now are you able to think, that like that। फिर वो एक सीड को लेते हैं, वो उसको तोड़ते हैं, दे ब्रेक अ सीड ओपन एंड दे ब्रेक इट फर्दर ओपन एंड दे ब्रेक इट फर्दर ओपन, दैट्स हाउ ही रीचेस कि इसके भी अंदर जो है दैट इज द ब्रह्मन, एंड दाउ आर्ट दैट ओ श्वेत केतु, तत्वमसि श्वेत केतु। समझ आया? व्हाट आई मीन टू से, इन द उपनिषद द method followed is different from that of the Veda, in that they are using their own contemplation, introspection, rational mind, अपनी thinking को एकदम उसमें ले जा करके, that is the method they are following. They are not merely copying the Rigvedic rishis. What I
correct.
say by that is that they are not repeating the mantras of the Veda and arriving at illumination by repeating them or meditating on them. That they are not doing.
They have used a rational approach, if we can we say
Why they
that?
are not doing that?
हाँ.
That question should arise first. Why they are not doing that? If it is already, the answer is very simple: time. So much time has passed, okay, that some of that knowledge has been lost. They don't know how to use it. They revere it. They revere it, they hold it in the highest regard. It is imprinted in the culture already by the time of the Upanishads that the Vedas are the source, they are the fount, and everything that is there. So, that is why when they are coming up with their own knowledge through this own process of thinking, ratiocination, little bit of vision also, gods वगैरह का भी mention है उसमें. But when they come to that knowledge, so they, okay, in the Rig Veda, this is the Rig that supports what I am saying. So sometimes in the Upanishad you will find that that particular Rig is quoted. Word directly वो quote किया है वहां पे. ठीक है?
अच्छा अच्छा. हाँ
हाँ.
हाँ हाँ.
But the point is that they were already following another method to arrive at the same knowledge than the Vedic seers.
Yeah, and I think it is very logical because now 1500 years have passed and a symbol which held meaning at
Yeah.
that time.
Now, exactly how many years had passed, we can't say,
No,
but
but
yeah,
still,
minimum 1000 years.
even if you take right now in the modern age, when we say Xerox, we understand, but 200 years down the line, people will not remember Xerox, but will remember photocopying. They will redefine it. So वो symbol चला गया is what I'm trying to point out at. कि
Yeah.
वो symbol का meaning तो lost हो गया ना. And even in the first chapter of the Gita here in our book, text Sri Aurobindo also says no the same thing. Symbols were if
Yeah,
were
yeah.
to
Only
be
that
correctly.
survives which is able to reinvent itself.
So that is what I was thinking from that point.
So clear हो गया?
हाँ,
So
clear. Yeah,
that
yeah.
is the reason why when the Mundaka is written, let's say, ठीक है? So that's why the Rig Veda is called the lower knowledge because it is being used for karma kanda. That is the reason. Whereas आप
The
मुंडक में जो
context
लिखा
decides.
है आप उसको फॉलो कर, उसमें क्या है? परा क्या है? अथ परा यया तद अक्षरम अधिगम्यते. Atha means and
Aksha,
then.
and then
Para means higher. And
higher.
then the higher. Yaya means by which. Tad aksharam, that immutable.
हाँ.
Adhigamyate, mane attained. And then the higher by which is attained the immutable. Clear?
Hmm.
Very clear.
Very clear. Yeah, yeah.
Thankfully मुझे याद आ गया, otherwise I had not thought of this verse for a long time. Okay? ठीक है? We'll go
Hmm.
back to the essays on the Gita text.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, yeah, no problem. This was the distinction made between Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda, between the original thought that led to the philosophy of the Purva Mimamsa, the Vedavada, and that which led to the philosophy of the Uttara Mimamsa, the Brahmavada. Between those who dwelt in the tradition of the Vedic hymns and the Vedic sacrifice, and those who put these aside as a lower knowledge and laid stress on the lofty metaphysical knowledge which emerges from the Upanishads. That is why also in the 19th century, when people like Max Muller, they took up the ancient Indian scriptures. So it was, already they wanted to, it was there in their mind as colonialists. Max Muller was nothing but a paid servant of the British East India Company when he started. Okay? So already it was their agenda to show that their culture is not having anything great and all. So, but when they saw that the Upanishads were the real book of knowledge and the Vedas was basically Karma Kanda, so it helped them to conclude that these were basically just naturalistic poems और ये तो बस वेल्थ मांग रहे थे, प्रोजनी मांग रहे थे, रेनफॉल मांग रहे थे. दैट इज ऑल दैट द वेद संहिता वर्सेस वर बीइंग यूज्ड फॉर. इट वाज very easy for them to come to this conclusion because of this division between karma kanda and jnana kanda, karma kanda being the veda samhita and jnana kanda being the upanishad part of it. Okay.
Hmm.
Between those etc and those who put aside as lower, ये वाला हुआ. Yeah, now this footnote. Jaimini is one of the disciples of Veda Vyasa. जितना मुझे याद आ रहा है, there are 4 people who are given the charge of each of the 4 Vedas. Vaishampayan, Paila, Paila, Jaimini, and there is one more person. I think Jaimini is one of those. So he's a great rishi that way. ये जो जिंदल गोत्र होता है अग्रवालों के अंदर, it seems that it comes from Jaimini. I had done this research once. So Jaimini's idea of liberation. Jaimini is the main commentator on the Uttara Mimamsa. Again, even the word Mimamsa अगर उसमें जाएं, somebody had told me basically it means a kind of analysis. That's what the word means. Exact meaning मुझे उसका ढूंढना पड़ेगा, but yeah, it means basically a kind of analysis. वही measure
मीनिंग
करना, वो
हाँ
म साउंड दो बार आ रहा है ना.
हाँ मतलब rationalists
Yeah,
basically, if we
kind
can
of.
say these are rationalists.
kind of. Yeah. So a very important here जो आ रहा है, एक एक चीज बहुत आराम आराम से तसल्ली से समझनी है. जैमिनीज आइडिया ऑफ लिबरेशन, जो उत्तर मीमांस पे बेस्ड है, जो वेद संहिता कर्मकांड एक्सेट्रा, इज द इटर्नल ब्रह्मलोक, ओके, इन विच द सोल दैट हैज कम टू नो ब्रह्मन स्टिल पोजेसेस अ डिवाइन बॉडी एंड डिवाइन एंजॉयमेंट्स. इसी को
Ah,
सत्यलोक भी बोलते हैं. गीता में ये
ah,
आता है 8.16 में. आई एम जस्ट कंफर्मिंग. या 8.16. I'll show the verse. Jaimini's idea of liberation is the eternal Brahmaloka, in which the soul that has come to know Brahman still possesses a divine body and divine enjoyments. For the Gita, the Brahmaloka is not liberation. The soul must pass beyond to the supracosmic status. Okay. Now, just without any, big ideas in your mind, आपने अपने whatever you hear from the culture, जो सुनने को आता है, isn't it said ब्रह्मलोक की प्राप्ति हो गई तो उससे बड़ी क्या चीज है, like that. Don't you hear that?
the
सत्यलोक की प्राप्ति.
parallels would be Vaikuntha and all this Goloka and all, right?
Exactly. And it is considered as liberation in common
हाँ
parlance, when
बराबर
you
है
are not thinking
बराबर
too
है
deeply or not speaking too seriously, etc. Right?
agreed,
Now,
yes.
the verse in the Gita where this is clearly there. A Brahma Bhuvanalokaha Punaravartinorjuna Mam Upetyatu Kaunteya Punarjanma Na Vidyate.
Oh, rebirth is not needed.
Yeah, only when you attain to the Mam, to the Purushottama. ठीक है, साफ लिखा है, दिख रहा है, वर्स दिख रहा है.
हाँ हाँ
A Brahma. A means Paryantam, up till there. Bhuvana means Loka. A Brahma Bhuvanal Lokaha Punaravartin Arjuna. Even if you reach till the Brahma Loka, आपकी पुनरावृत्ति होगी. You will be forced to come back. अब यहाँ पे highest heavens लिखा है. The highest heavens of the cosmic plan are subject to a return to rebirth. Okay. Instead of writing Brahma Loka, it is called highest heaven. Okay? Basically, it is the over mental, you want to say. अब ओवर
समझ
मेंटल
गया
में भी रेंजेस होती हैं. ये ओवर मेंटल का इट मस्ट बी वन ऑफ द हाई रेंजेस ऑफ द ओवर माइंड. ओके. तो
करेक्ट
हाँ,
करेक्ट
बट इंपॉर्टेंट वही तैतरीय उपनिषद, रिमेंबर द 11 लेवल्स. सो द
या
10th लेवल इज प्रजापति.
ah
दैट इज हाउ यू कोरिलेट दिस.
because but the the 10th level is Prajapati, right, the last
11th is
and
Brahman,
Brahma, the last is eternal spirit, correct.
इटर्नल स्पिरिट. सो आ ब्रह्म भुवनालोकाः पुनरावर्तिनोर्जुन. आ ब्रह्म भुवना संस्कृत में ही समझते हैं. अगर इवन इफ यू रीच अप टिल द ब्रह्मलोक, पुनरावर्ती इज देयर. पुनरावर्ती मीन्स कमिंग बैक, रीबर्थ. माम
पुनर्जन्म
उपेत्य. ओके. उप इत्य, दैट इज हाउ इट इज ब्रोकन. उप इज अ प्रीफिक्स. ई इज द धातु ओवर देयर, बहुत ही छोटी धातु है. अटेन करना बेसिकली, ये रहा यहाँ पे उपेत्य. या उपेत्य, इनडिक्लाइनेबल पास्ट पार्टिसिपल और जेरेंट फॉर्म ऑफ द वर्बल रूट ई, टू गो. सिंपली ई. उसी से आगे पीछे वो चेंज करके अ य न बनता है. अयना मीन्स जर्नी. ए सिंपली मीन्स टू गो. प्योर कॉन्सोनेंट में ओनली दीज, सॉरी, प्योर वावल में ओनली दीज टू धातुज हैव सर्वाइव्ड. ए मीनिंग टू गो, रि मीनिंग टू रीच, टू अटेन. रिच्छति रूप में आता है 5.29. क्लियर व्हाट आई एम सेइंग? धवल भाई को तो एटलीस्ट क्लियर हो रहा होगा.
हाँ रिच्छति का आपने पहले बताया, रीच.
व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से, अर्चना जी,
हाँ.
basically even the smallest Sanskrit sounds like or e or u or ri, basic sounds, they are also having a verbal meaning originally. Out of those four, two have survived. बाकी दो का भी मीनिंग होता था, but one of them is this E, simply E, छोटा E, okay? उपेत्य, basically meanings having come. इतना डिटेल में जाने का, but anyway. So माम उपेत्य, माम means me, उपेत्य means having come. Tu kaunteya, but if you tu means but. माम उपेत्य तु कौन्तेय पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते. वेरी क्लियर. ठीक है, दैट इज व्हाट श्री अरविंदो इज सेइंग हियर. या के या फॉर द हाँ ये रहा इन द फुटनोट. हाँ, Jaimini's idea of liberation is the eternal Brahmaloka, in which the soul that has come to know Brahman still possesses a divine body and divine enjoyments. So you reach the Brahmaloka, which is also called Satyaloka, and some kind of body you have to have no matter which loka you are. Okay. So there is some kind of divine body and there are some kind of divine enjoyments. But that is Jaimini's idea of liberation. Yahi, which we had covered earlier, कि the idea of liberation itself evolves as evolution happens. This is the first idea of liberation. Mane, you are, first of all, you have all the enjoyments of this plane, of material plane. That is the first level of enjoyment in the Taittiriya Upanishad of Ananda. Okay. Then thak, 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 it goes like that, 10 levels, and finally the Brahman. Okay. In the 10th level, that is Brahmaloka, you have those divine enjoyments. और उसके पहले जैसे जैसे वो लोग, an enjoyment is basically how to define the greater quality. It is more subtle. It is more subtle that way. So if you have purely physical as compared to vital, as compared to mental, as compared to spiritual enjoyment, the quality of the enjoyment becomes higher and higher. The quality of the ananda becomes higher and higher, like that. Okay. Now, just to correlate, I had shared this thing, quotation on the group, in which Sri Aurobindo says that what is the experience of the Brahman? Anybody who has experienced the Brahman will smile at the charge of coldness and the phrases that he has used. I will repost that. उससे आपको एक हल्का सा, you get a glimpse of what the ananda of the Brahma is like. It is something unbelievable. You will feel like reading that letter over and over and over and over again. Okay. That is the enjoyment of the Brahman itself. गीता में उसके लिए 2-3 श्लोक हैं. सुखमात्यंतिकम यत्तद् बुद्धि ग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियम वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायम स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः. ऐसे एक आधा श्लोक और है उसमें.
That will be the Akshar Purusha, no? That you mentioned.
Akshara Purusha.
Silent mind, yeah.
Has come to know Brahman, still possesses divine. For the Gita, the Brahma Loka is not liberation.
हाँ, ये 18 point अभी दिखाया ना आपने.
8.16.
8.16 या 18.
8.16 double भाई.
हाँ, sorry.
8 का double 16, 8.16. For the Gita, the Brahma Loka is not liberation. Very clear. Punarjanma, Punaravritti. The soul must pass beyond to the supra-cosmic status. The Mam, the Purushottama of the Gita, is beyond cosmos. Supra-cosmic. And when you attain to him, then Punarjanma na vidyate. Then rebirth is not binding upon you. Okay. Gita mein this idea is not there that you can come back as a liberated being and all. वो सब गीता के scope के beyond था. So that is not there. But yeah. And just to use this occasion to complete this whole thread of discussion, liberation के जो stages हैं, ठीक है? So first, sort of fulfillment के, if you want to say, instead of liberation. First is the material level. So you have all the possible enjoyments of the material level that is there. Then it's not sufficient for you. So you think of those same enjoyments, but in a higher plane of consciousness. Taittiriya mein it is called Manushya Gandharva. Agla Deva Gandharva. Gandharva is basically vital gods. So he's talking about, Gandharva is basically musicians. So like that. So basically what I'm saying, you're not satisfied with food and sex and simply physical pleasures anymore. You want something higher. राइट. देन फिर उसमें आगे जाकर के और मेंटल वर्ल्ड्स. इंद्र बेसिकली इज द माइंड. इंद्र इज लेवल 6 और 7 इन दैट लेवल, राइट. 7 और 8 जो भी है. दैट इज हाउ इट प्रोग्रेसेस. बट वो उसमें ग्रेडेशन हो रहा है धीरे धीरे. सो मटीरियल लेवल, देन सम एंजॉयमेंट्स इन अ हेवन. ओके. देन उसके बाद जो थर्ड लेवल है, दैट इज द एंजॉयमेंट ऑफ द ब्रह्मन इटसेल्फ. That is the enjoyment which comes by getting free from liberation, sorry, free from rebirth. वही मुक्ति मुक्ति का जो कॉन्सेप्ट इंडिया में इतना भरा हुआ है दिमाग के अंदर कि पुनर्जन्म से मुक्त होना है, पुनर्जन्म से मुक्त होना है, ब्रह्म की प्राप्ति करनी है, एक्सेट्रा. दैट इज द थर्ड लेवल. ओके. श्री अरविंदो गोज बियॉन्ड दैट. ही सेज कि दैट इज वेरी सेल्फिश. It's not that you should not attain it. You should. But having attained that, you should be willing to come and help those who are still stuck here in the suffering and the ignorance. That is why clear sentence is there in the synthesis of yoga. I will paste it. It's very important on the group. Okay. For the seeker of the integral yoga, whoever wants it, the seeker of the integral yoga does not want his, just his personal and selfish liberation. He wants to come back and help. उसको उतना rebirth से उतना डर नहीं लगता. He is not scared of it like that. So that Sri Aurobindo is talking of something even higher like that. And in the Kena Upanishad के ऊपर जो commentary है, last word करके जो last essay है, there he says this thing कि just as the idea of liberation from rebirth was so much insisted upon at a certain point in time, now this idea should be insisted that only an individual liberation is not the right thing to be aimed for. And what is the real liberation? He says the liberation is the internal liberation. It's an impersonal thing. It's the liberation from egoism, he says. That should be sought. Instead of seeking liberation from rebirth, what we should really seek is liberation from egoism. वहां पे जो phrase है exactly, release from egoism. Okay. तो I thought just to complete the पूरा discussion ये बोलना जरूरी था. These kind of things, they don't stay in the mind so often, so they have to be repeated. Yeah. 9 o'clock. Yeah. So now we'll just finish this paragraph. Yeah. For the pragmatic mind of the Vedavadins, the Aryan religion of the rishis meant the strict performance of the Vedic sacrifice. Even today, there are such Vedavadins. In South India, you will find a lot of them. In Banaras, you might find some of them. जो इस तरह के South India में तो a lot, मतलब. Because the Rig
Yeah.
Veda chanting ka continuous tradition, it is there for 5,000 years somewhere in Andhra. Kirit Joshi wrote in one of his books. He was actually in charge of one of the major Vedic institutes in India. So under that, uske auspices mein
Even in
unhone
Tamil Nadu, you'll find a lot, no?
yeah,
Because
yeah, Kerala also.
अच्छा अच्छा.
हाँ. What I'm trying to say, वो Vedavadins you will still find. North में भी मिलेंगे, उतने नहीं होंगे. Places like Mathura, places like Banaras, centers of Vedic learning, there you will find such people. And for them, the idea of liberation would still be to attain the Brahmaloka. Please understand this.
हाँ
They are
correct.
still at that level 2. Material के बाद जो आता है, highest of the enjoyments in the heavens, they are still at. Maybe they are even thinking of only Swarga, not even Brahmaloka.
Swarg, the lure of Swarga and whatever that is.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. नहीं, ब्रह्मलोका का भी फिर वो बहुत ऊंचा हो जाता है. अरे कहाँ ब्रह्मलोका, अरे हमको तो स्वर्ग मिल जाए वही बहुत है. आई एम नॉट
अच्छा
दिस थिंग. हाँ,
अच्छा.
इट्स वेरी नॉर्मल थिंग. इसमें क्या है, राइट? So all those things are still there. Anyway, for the pragmatic mind of the Vedavadins, I mean, see what I'm saying. This is just to give an idea ki how beautifully and comprehensively Sri Aurobindo has explained all these things. Okay.
True.
Yeah, the different aims of humanity at different stages in its evolution, etc., etc. It is just unbelievable the clarity with which he has explained all these things. Right? Yeah. For the pragmatic mind of the Vedavadins, the Aryan religion of the rishis meant the strict performance of the Vedic sacrifices. Okay, and the use of the sacred Vedic mantras in order to possess all human desires in this world. इहैव, यहाँ पे इहैव का मतलब वो नहीं होता, सॉरी. इन दिस वर्ल्ड मीन्स इह, यहाँ. ठीक है. प्रोजेनी, वेल्थ. One of the words for wealth in the Rig Veda is raye, riches.
राय आसमान.
राय आसमान, वो वहीं से आता है. रई, सिंपली र के ऊपर आई की मात्रा. डिप्थोंग जो है ना, आई वो वाला, र के ऊपर आई की मात्रा, दैट इज वन ऑफ द वर्ड्स फॉर वेल्थ. रई. सिंपली रई। वो प्रातिपदिक है, वो स्टेम है। वर्ड वेल्थ, प्रोजेनी, विक्ट्री, every kind of good fortune, and the joys of immortality in paradise beyond. Now, each of these has their spiritual counterpart. Since we are studying spiritual,
एक क्वेश्चन आया as you as I read this line, the joys of see, Arjuna is a pragmatic mind, right? In that sense, that is why he's talking about all that also to Shri Krishna in chapter 2 कि मुझे ये सब wealth का क्या करना ये, because he was a pragmatic mind. तो वो भी एक तरह का यही लाइन में था क्या?
हाँ, the
Oh, okay.
clan which he belonged to, the Kuru clan, the Kuru clan was basically not very philosophic minded. They are what are called the Western nations in the Malavas by Sri Aurobindo. That article called the
ये
Malavas.
आपने पहले भी बोला था,
हाँ,
ये अभी याद आया। हाँ, तो that
तो
means
वो
this is
बेसिकली यज्ञ वज्ञ करके वो धरती
हाँ
के सम्राट बन जाएंगे, और उसके बाद उनको स्वर्ग में जाके मजे करने हैं वहां पे।
हाँ
Frankly speaking,
yeah, so Arjuna is this type.
Arjuna
Okay.
is that type. That clan is like that.
हाँ,
Kuru clan. For the pragmatic mind of the Vedavadins, etc., etc. हाँ, वो एक एक वर्ड के स्पिरिचुअल वेल्थ का मतलब स्पिरिचुअल मीनिंग होगा स्पिरिचुअल वेल्थ। स्पिरिचुअल वेल्थ वुड मीन व्हाट? हायर ग्रेड्स ऑफ आनंद। प्रोजेनी, प्रोजेनी का स्पिरिचुअल मीनिंग होगा पावर्स, सिद्धीज। चिल्ड्रन हु आर बोर्न आउट ऑफ योर साधना।
अच्छा 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 ओ
एक एक वर्ड का स्पिरिचुअल मीनिंग पता होना चाहिए, अदरवाइज यू लाइक हाउ डू यू से दैट देयर इज डबल मीनिंग इन द विक्ट्री। विक्ट्री का मतलब केवल अपने शत्रुओं के ऊपर नहीं, ओवर द इनर शत्रु, एंड यू कॉन्कर योर सेल्फ, यू आर टोटली मास्टर ऑफ योर सेल्फ। ओके, स्पिरिचुअली एवरी काइंड ऑफ गुड फॉर्च्यून, फॉर्च्यून को लक्ष्मी बोलते हैं, ठीक है? तो एवरी काइंड ऑफ गुड फॉर्च्यून, यू नो दैट ब्राइटनेस, दैट मतलब abundance in the spiritual sense, where you do not santosha basically. Santosha is the greatest good fortune from the spiritual point of view, because normally speaking, no matter how much money you have, it is never sufficient. जिसके पास 10 करोड़ हो उसको 100 चाहिए, जिसके पास 100 हो उसको 1000 चाहिए। हाउ डू यू गेट दैट ट्रू फॉर्च्यून? विथ संतोष। संतुष्ट सततम योगी यतात्मा
हम्म
दृढ़ निश्चय।
हम्म,
तो fortune in the spiritual sense means that sense of abundance, where you stop feeling that you are poor, where you stop feeling that you need more, where you start feeling that paripurti because of connection with the Atman within you। ठीक है, ये समझने वाली चीजें हैं। एंड द जॉयज ऑफ इमोर्टैलिटी इन पैराडाइज बियॉन्ड, तो वो जॉयज ऑफ इमोर्टैलिटी इन पैराडाइज बियॉन्ड का क्या मतलब है? Why are they being called immortality? Because they're relatively immortal. If you have those same joys in 100-year lifespan on earth, if you go to some paradise, आप जितना ऊपर जाओगे उतना वो लाइफ स्पैन बढ़ता जाएगा। So if you are there in the Brahmaloka, which is the highest, then the joys will be there for a much longer time. It won't be complete immortality, mind you. It won't be. That perfect immortality, sorry, will come only with the attainment of the Brahman itself.
तो वहां भी तो दुख होंगे अलग किस्म के,
कहाँ
हमेशा
पे?
जो हो हायर लोक्स में भी।
वो मुझे नहीं
यहाँ
मालूम है।
नहीं नहीं होगा, तो यहाँ है तो वहां भी उतने ही ज्यादा
देखो, कुछ ना
प्रोपोर्शन
कुछ
ऑफ
तो होगा, डिससेटिस्फैक्शन होगा, आई मीन
हाँ,
समथिंग वुड बी देयर।
both have to go na till the end only, until you find that absolute unity.
वेरी वेरी, अगेन मतलब इट्स डिफिकल्ट बिकॉज देन यू हैव टू बी अ प्लेन ऑफ, यू हैव टू बी अ बीइंग ऑफ दैट प्लेन। एक जो स्टैंडर्ड एग्जांपल कोट किया जाता है टू शो these things, like in the mythological serials you are shown that the gods are also fighting with themselves।
Exactly, I was about to
नहीं नहीं, मैं उसको आपको और एक स्टैग्नेंट, आपको एक बहुत स्टैगरिंग एग्जांपल देता हूँ।
हाँ
इंद्र, आई लर्न दिस फ्रॉम दिस सेंट फ्रॉम वृंदावन, प्रेमानंद बाबा। कहीं से भी किसी को नॉलेज तो नॉलेज, इट डजंट मैटर फ्रॉम वेयर इट कम्स। तो ही इज इन चार्ज ऑफ ऑल दोज अप्सरास, मतलब वहाँ तिलोत्तमा और उर्वशी और मैनका, दे आर ऑल एट हिज बेक एंड कॉल। बट लुक एट हिम, he comes and takes the form of the Gautama ऋषि and goes and has sexual intercourse with अहिल्या। इसका क्या मतलब है? वो कितना पतन हुआ उसका, कि वो जो
हम्म,
ग्रीड है, his lust for women, it is not satisfied even though he has Menaka and whatever Tilottama etc at his beck and call। Just look at it, दिस इज एन एग्जाम्पल कि हाउ इवन दोज लेवल के जो बीइंग्स हैं, दे आर नॉट लाइक टोटली जॉयज वगैरह उनके जो है वो उनके लिए पर्याप्त नहीं है. मे बी ही नीडेड सम एडवेंचर, गॉड नोज. आई डोंट नो, आई कांट से. I mean, we can only speculate. Or this is a not very great example, but it is a good example.
नहीं सही बोल रहे हैं मतलब see all I can just say is all the parallels have to be there in the other worlds also the if the if the joys are larger so are the dukkhas if the
दुखा
proportion
would be the, आपको पता है कहीं ना कहीं कि ये एक दिन चला जाएगा. जैसे ही ये
हाँ
पुण्य क्षीणे पुण्य मर्त्य लोकम विशंति.
हाँ तो
इफ यू
वहां
आर
पर
नॉट लिबरेटेड, क्षीणे पुण्य मर्त्य लोकम विशंति.
वहां पर भी लोग बीमार होते रहेंगे और वहां भी सुश्रुत के नाम का कोई तो होगा वो सब
मे बी,
हो गए
मे बी,
धनवंतरी
मे
धनवंतरी
अश्विन
धनवंत
कुमार, Ashwins are there, the divine physicians.
हाँ then see now now it
There is a siddhi for this. I mean, if you do the necessary tapasya, it is called भागवत पुराण में उसका नाम आता है. मैंने शिव बंधु के लिटरेचर में पढ़ा था. um, mm,
अश्विनी कुमार नो you're referring to
देवलोक,
हाँ
देव क्रीडानुदर्शनम.
देव क्रीडानु दर्शनम ओके
देव क्रीडा अनुदर्शनम. This is the name of the siddhi in the Bhagavad Puran. If you get this siddhi, then you can see what is happening in the higher lokas.
the play of the devas you can see that means
And basically, it is through that siddhi, by the use of siddhi, that the Puranas have been written.
oh अच्छा
Obviously, they are basically a transcription of what they have seen as happenings in the higher worlds. वो कोई imagination थोड़ी ना है. You
okay
think they're imaginations? No.
I
The
thought
rishis have
yeah
seen in
हाँ
states
ये
of trance through this siddhi or through higher siddhis or whatever, they have
हाँ
seen these events happening. And
oh
what they have written in the Puranas is a transcription of what they saw in these higher worlds. Just like in Savitri, Shri
हाँ
Aurobindo, as he's traversing through those plains,
हाँ
he's
हाँ
seeing all these things. वो purple skies और वो पता नहीं क्या क्या जो सावित्री में mentioned है. And then
हाँ
he has transcribed it into human language for, people like us.
अच्छा
It's the
अच्छा
same thing. What is the difference? Tell me. Language वहां पे संस्कृत है, वहां पे इंग्लिश है, but the process is the same. An
I
earthly
agree
yogi rose to those plains, saw what was happening there, and wrote it down in a human language.
hmm
Right?
hmm
So we'll finish this already 9:10.
yeah sorry go ahead yeah
No problem. Sorry, क्या मैं ही खींचे जा रहा हूँ. For the idealism of the Brahmavadins, this was only a preliminary preparation. Yeah.
hmm
For the idealism of the Brahmavadins, this was only a preliminary preparation. By the way, the word ideal is used as a synonym for supermind several times in the Sri Aurobindonian literature. Several times. For the idealism, because that is the complete consciousness. Uske pehle sab incomplete hai. You start tasting true completeness from the supramental level. So long way to go. For the idealism of the Brahmavadins, this was only a preliminary preparation, and the real object of man, true Purushartha, began with this turning, moksha, to the knowledge of the Brahman. Got it? The real object of man, Purusha Artha. Purusha mane man, Artha mane object. Okay? That is how the word Purushartha is broken up. Also, if you translate Purusha as soul and Artha as the objective, then Purushartha literally means what is the objective of the soul when it has come here? It is that literal.
yeah I always thought that way कि पुरुषा means soul and artha means okay
तो
yeah
ठीक है, एक ही बात है. मैन के
okay
पहले टू स्पीक ऑफ
हाँ
सोल इज नॉट रियली यूजफुल.
हाँ
Man and soul is like synonymous that way. Okay. Began with this turning to the knowledge of the Brahman, which would give him the, देखा, ट्रू इमॉर्टैलिटी. पिछले वाले पैराग्राफ में लिखा था इमॉर्टैलिटी, अब उसके आगे ट्रू लगा दिया.
हाँ so ये लोग two camps are very visible
Which would give him the true immortality of an ineffable, one of Sri Aurobindo's favorite words. Ineffable means inexpressible, अनिर्वचनीय, जिसको शब्दों में नहीं कहा जा सकता. That which cannot be expressed in words, or maybe it just cannot be expressed in anything. इन वर्ड्स की जगह आप बोलो कि पेंटिंग में कर देंगे, इसमें कर देंगे, नहीं. इनएक्सप्रेसिबल, इनएफेबल. द ट्रू इमोर्टैलिटी ऑफ एन इनएफेबल स्पिरिचुअल ब्लिस far beyond the lower joys of this world or of any inferior heaven. तो दिस वर्ल्ड से लेके एनी इंफीरियर हेवन तक तैत्रिया के वो 1 से 10 लेवल्स तक कवर हो गए. द 11th इज द फाइनल वन, दैट इज द ब्रह्मन. Okay, whatever may have been the true and original sense of the Veda, yeah, this was the distinction. अब ध्यान दो. ये कहां से लिख रहे हैं? It's not possible to write this without त्रिकाल दृष्टि. It's not possible. This was the distinction which had long established itself. ये स्कॉलरशिप से नहीं लिख सकता कोई इस तरह की बातें.
नहीं.
And with which therefore the Gita has to deal. जब गीता लिखी गई है, by that time this distinction had long established itself. आप देख रहे हो ना, मुंडक में ही बोल रहा है अपरा और अपरा के बारे में.
तो अनमोल भाई, that means सांख्य भी इसी का ही है, evolution. In that sense, knowledge, Sankhya and the relatives, similars like Buddhism and they are all related to knowledge only, no?
Yeah.
So all are dealing with knowledge only.
Related to knowledge mane their main method of liberation is knowledge.
What I meant by that only, related to knowledge, is this only. So in that sense, there are this original Veda का जो idea था, spirit और practice, वो bifurcate हो गया.
Yeah, kind of. That original spiritual pragmatism of the Veda, which was not just seeking for liberation but also enjoyment of the world. And if you remember in the first chapter, you know, that's why you have to be an extremely good student if you study somebody like Sri Aurobindo. What does he say? जब वो तंत्र के बारे में बोलते हैं, what does he say? The divine perfectibility of matter. This idea was there in the Tantra, and this idea was there in the far off Vedic ages, he says. Remember?
He says that. You're right. Right.
हम वो सेंटेंस दिखा लेंगे, इंपॉर्टेंट है. We'll go back. Anyway, we have done it for today. अपना पैराग्राफ हो गया आज का. Right?
नहीं, ये जो डिफरेंस है अनमोल भाई, I'm very much, I have experienced this in software also. I'm telling you, कोई भी चीज spirit, the word which Sri Aurobindo has coined, spiritual pragmatism, is a marriage of the spirit and the letter of the law. In that sense, if you say, like in software also, we have seen when new methodologies come, the spirit is there. The original set of practitioners will go ahead, do it with, apply the practice in that spirit, but as it devolves, not evolves, devolves, it separates into the karma kandic portion. Nahi, process hai. I have to follow the process.
Yeah, it's human thing. It will be the same everywhere. Divine perfectibility. Yeah. Moreover, it grasps at that idea. It mane tantra. This whole paragraph is on the tantra. There have been other syntheses, Vedic syntheses वगैरह आगे जाकर. There is yet another. It starts from here. There is yet another tantric. Okay. So जब वो यहाँ पे कह रहे हैं it, this it over here, this it means the tantric. So moreover, the tantric synthesis grasps at that idea of the divine perfectibility of man, possessed by the Vedic rishis, but thrown into the background by the intermediate ages.
मतलब they were spiritual pragmatists, is what the word. I really love the word spiritual pragmatism. Yeah, it's a fusion of both the things together, the practice aspect and the spirit aspect. And thank you so much. This
thrown into the background by the intermediate ages. This is the same thing which Krishna says at the beginning of the 4th chapter of the Gita, that this yoga of the Rajarshis this got lost in the great passage of time. तो इसीलिए अर्जुन के माइंड में ये सब संन्यास वगैरह के आइडियाज, that is why they crept into his head, because the real yoga, because that is the real yoga, wherein you have the inner renunciation and the inner mastery of desire, but with that inner completeness you are able to engage in whatever is needed from you.
Even
you don't have to run away from the world to feel free.
3.3 का वर्स भी यही दर्शा रहा है ना, फिर यही हुआ ना, ये ज्ञान योगेन सांख्यानाम कर्म योगेन योगिनाम, राइट?
बिकॉज़ मैं इंटरमीडिएट एजेस की बात कर रहा हूं, थ्रोन इनटू द बैकग्राउंड वाली. सकाले नेह महता योगो नष्टः परंतप. I am referring to that verse.
अच्छा, okay, sorry, I went.
That comes at the beginning of the 4th chapter.
Yes, okay.
Imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam विवस्वान् मनवे प्राह मनुरिक्ष्वाकवे ब्रवीत् एवं परंपरा प्राप्तम इमं राजर्षयो विदुः सकाले नेह महता योगो नष्टः परन्तप स एवायं मया ते अद्य योगः प्रोक्तः पुरातनः भक्तोऽसि मे सखा चेति रहस्यम ह्येतत् उत्तमम 4.1 to 4.3. ठीक है. Yeah.
So
So
sorry, I got carried away with the
no, no,
karma
no
kand
problem.
and the jnana kand, and that's why
No problem. No problem.
3.3, if you, I was referring to
I
that.
understood, Dhaval. I understood. I understood. So
मैं उसकी
whatever
बात
may have been the true and original sense of the Veda, this was the distinction, ठीक है, between the Jnana Kanda and the Karma Kanda, which had long established itself. Long established. आप देख रहे हो मुंडका was there before the Gita. मुंडका तो उपनिषद है, and that is the second synthesis. और वो के बाद गीता में कम से कम 1000 साल का गैप होगा. तो already by the time of the Mundaka, this was there. So long established, and with which therefore the Gita has to deal.
I would go to the extent of saying that probably it goes till the root will be till Sankhya, because सारे उपनिषद में सांख्य का तो मेंशन है ही है, तो वो सांख्य से शुरू हो गया.
Yeah, correct.
Now Veda and Sankhya
नहीं,
existed
सांख्य से
side by
क्या शुरू हो गया है?
ये bifurcation knowledge.
नहीं, सांख्य फिलोसफी इटसेल्फ में कोई बाइफर्केशन नहीं है.
मैं
Because
उसकी बात नहीं कर रहा, सांख्य फिलोसफी इटसेल्फ की नहीं बात कर रहा. सांख्य का से बाइफर्केशन शुरू हो गया, ऐसा मैं कह रहा हूँ कि सांख्य डील प्योरली विद द नॉलेज एस्पेक्ट.
अच्छा, हाँ, करेक्ट.
एंड वेदास. सो नाउ द
बट आप
क्वेश्चन
उसमें भी अगर देखो कि
हाँ,
सांख्य अगर वहां से हुआ,
हाँ,
कृष्णा सेज आई गेव दिस टू विवस्वान, टू द सन गॉड. इमम विवस्वते योगम, ये योग जो है, कर्म योग जो है, वो मैंने विवस्वान को दिया था. तो इफ यू थिंक नॉर्मली, विदाउट द सन देर कैन बी नो क्रिएशन, राइट? सो द योगा, द कर्म योगा वॉज गिवन इवन बिफोर द सांख्य बाय कृष्णा टू विवस्वान. गेटिंग माई पॉइंट?
हाँ.
इमम
यही ना प्रॉब्लम क्या हो रहा है ना, कि यहाँ टाइमलाइन का हमारा तो कोई रिकॉर्ड
कि
है.
सभी का यही प्रॉब्लम है, टाइमलाइन तो है ही नहीं हमारे यहाँ पे, तो फिर वो बहुत
पर
उसमें प्रॉब्लम.
अब
बट यू कैन
हाँ,
इमेजिन, यू कैन स्ट्रेच योर इमेजिनेशन एंड या.
नहीं छोड़ो ये बात, ये पॉइंट में पढ़ना ही नहीं, वेदा पहले आए या ये सांख्य बाद में आए, ये द पॉइंट इज इट एग्जिस्टेड, बात खत्म हो गई अब.
एग्जैक्टली. एंड मोर इम्पोर्टेंट इज द, वही मतलब वो ज्ञान कांड, कर्म कांड, ये सारा जो है सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट, प्रैक्टिकली हमारे लिए क्या है उसका, कि एट व्हाट लेवल वी आर. ऑनेस्ट होना चाहिए. द मेन थिंग इज बी ऑनेस्ट. Honesty is indispensable for yoga. To try to cheat the divine is worse than to try to cheat a human being, and much more foolish. Mother said this, right? So what is your current level? Are you truly free above material enjoyments? Do you not really want the enjoyments of heaven? आपको ब्रह्मलोक का आनंद मिल जाए, आप उसको छोड़ दोगे? डू यू रियली वॉन्ट द ब्रह्मन? और उसके बाद फिर और, आर यू रियली सो सेल्फलेस दैट यू आर विलिंग टू गिव अप इवन योर ओन लिबरेशन, so that you can help in coming back and helping others, etc. So basically एकदम क्लियरली दिखाने के लिए कि क्या क्या होता है. इट्स सो वाइड एंड मतलब amazing, मतलब the clarity which Sri Aurobindo gives, what to say. Whew. Right? Yeah. Okay.
These are two temperaments.
Yeah, I'll. Okay,
Sorry,
I'll
I'm just going on and
नहीं,
on.
no problem. No.
ये जो ज्ञान कांड और ये कर्म कांड, these are two
I am stopping
temperaments.
the recording. Just give me a moment.
हाँ.